Start. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of Touro University and the president of New York Medical College, Dr. Alan Kadish.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amler. I know maybe I'm not as thin as I was 30 years ago, but you're making me sound like two people now. So, good morning, and thank you all for attending today's extraordinarily important event. The Center for Disaster Medicine is a source of pride for New York Medical College and Touro University. It was founded in the aftermath of 9/11, and it utilizes New York Medical College's globally recognized assets, expertise, and research, which encompass dealing with natural disasters, operational and tactical medicine, and public health preparedness. The center brings special competence in the unique needs of children, persons with disabilities, climate change, equity and preparedness, and response among today's healthcare providers. Today marks an important milestone in the expansion of the center. It was achieved thanks to $200,000 of capital funding from the New York State Senate, championed by Senator Peter Harckham, and with an additional $250,000 from the New York State Assembly, and support from the Senate Majority Leader, our old friend Andrea Stewart-Cousins, who I believe is now once again our senator, and we're extraordinarily happy about that. As they keep moving us around, or you around, I'm not sure which it is. Both of the senators have been long-standing supporters of New York Medical College, and we really appreciate what you've done for us. I also want to thank Assembly member MaryJane Shimsky for being here and for her support. I'll let Dr. Amler and Dr. Markinson talk a little bit about exactly what's being done with the center, but I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about the importance of the Center for Disaster Medicine at New York Medical College. It would be comforting to be able to say that we're past the time of disasters. But today, one day after 9/11, it's a time to think not just about the victims in general, but also about the first responders, many of whom lost their lives on that day, many of whom suffered illnesses for many years to come. From what I understand, each of them, almost without exception, behaved with incredible bravery and dedication to try to save lives on that day. But perhaps the system didn't do enough to help them. Training perhaps could have been better. Communication certainly could have been better. And while we hope nothing like 9/11 ever happens again, one of the goals of the center is to make sure that if it does, that our first responders and medical system are better prepared to be able to deal with that. But look, we've unfortunately had other kinds of challenges as well. 3 years ago, approximately, or 3.5 years ago, I should say, on the end of January in 2020, New York Medical College and Touro University did its first seminar on the COVID-19 pandemic. At that time, there wasn't a single recognized case in the United States. We had several presenters at that meeting, public health officials, members of legislatures, and all of them uniformly believed that what happened in Wuhan wouldn't happen here, that we were different, that we were better prepared, that we got this. But the lesson of that first conference was we weren't as well prepared as we should have been. We weren't as well prepared as we thought we were. So not even going back a couple of decades, but going back just a few years, we recognize the fact that our New York metropolitan area preparedness to deal with disasters is not what it needs to be. And that's why the Center for Disaster Medicine at New York Medical College is so important. I want to add one other thing. This summer, if nothing else, has taught us about the reality of global warming. Thus far, the consequences have not been disastrous in the New York metropolitan area, and I hope they never are. But there's certainly a possibility that as sea levels rise, as temperatures rise, that flooding, mass heat stroke, diseases, or other disasters due to global warming will cause trouble. We know that people in this room are doing everything possible to try to mitigate the effects of global warming through smart environmental policies and through conservation. But the fact is, we also need to be prepared. And the Center for Disaster Medicine is continuing to develop programs so that if, unfortunately, some of the predictions about global warming turn out to be true, that unlike what happened in the COVID pandemic, unlike to some extent what happened in 9/11, that we are prepared to deal with it. And unless we think we can massively change behavior and execute carbon capture on a global scale in a very short period of time, the possibilities that we'll have to deal with the adverse effects of global warming are real, and we need to be ready for it. And the Center for Disaster Medicine is developing programs to make sure that we will be. So I really want to thank members of the legislature for supporting us, for continuing to provide effort to build out the center, for continuing to provide support for the center, which is funded by a grant from New York State. And we'll try to hold up our end of the bargain by making sure that we make the New York metropolitan area and Westchester County and its environs as ready as possible for the next disaster as we can be, at the same time that we pray it will never happen. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Kadish. Senator Peter Harckham has been a distinguished public service for many years, culminating in his election to the New York State Senate in November 2018. That sounds like recently, but it's not that recent anymore, is it? But currently, and he was our senator until recently, when there were some changes, but he is now chair of the Senate Environmental Conservation Committee and has a very distinguished record in emergency response by, on his own initiative, championing Narcan training all around Westchester and Putnam over the last couple of years. Through his 2 full terms in office, he's become one of the most productive members of the New York State Senate. He is, of course, a champion of the environment, having passed the toughest climate protection legislation in the nation, and also introduced legislation that was later enacted requiring all new passenger car and truck sales to be a zero emission by 2035, and allowing municipalities to build solar canopies and jumpstart community renewable energy projects. Earlier this year, Governor Kathy Hochul placed Harkham's landmark wetlands legislation protecting Class C streams statewide, which will safeguard fragile drinking water resources, into her proposed 2023 state budget. Ladies and gentlemen, our great Senate friend, Senator Peter Harckham.
Thank you, Dr. Amler. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for having us here today. This is an exciting day for New York Medical College. And, you know, the old saying is the only thing that's constant is change. And whether you have me as your senator, the majority leader, the relationships don't change. And the relationships endure, and the investments that we make collectively. You know, the entire Westchester delegation has always been very protective of New York Medical College. You know, we go through this dance every budget season where governors reduce or omit funding for the centers of excellence, and then we have to scramble to put it back. And so none of this happens without all of us in the Westchester delegation. And then certainly the grant money that I've been able to forward to New York Medical College could never have happened without the support of the majority leader, excuse me, and my colleague Shelley Mayer. So we're all firmly supportive of the mission, because you have a unique mission. You're the only one doing this sort of medicine. And as the President explained, the need for it, whether it's a pandemic, whether it's a catastrophe like 9/11. The sad thing is that you reference the impacts of climate change. They are here now. And so there are three things we need to do. We need to try and mitigate climate change, and that's a lot of the types of legislation that you were talking about and we work on. And then there's the resiliency. How do we harden our infrastructure? And then preparedness, as you were talking about. So, I'm just really thrilled to play just a small part in this with all of my colleagues from the Senate to work with medical college and the disaster for emergency medicine. You really are in a unique space, and we need to do everything that we can to support you. You're in terrific hands, obviously, now with the majority leader, but I'm always here to help you. You'll always have a friend here, and keep doing what you're doing. It's really essential work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Harckham. In his remarks, he mentioned another great friend of New York Medical College, State Senator Shelley Mayer, who joined us just now. Great to have you. Some other great friends, and I know I will leave someone out if I mention everybody, so I won't try to mention everybody. But Amy Allen is here from the Westchester County Association. And my fellow dean in the dental school, Dr. Ronnie Myers. It's only the first new dental school in New York in 50 years. So, what else can you say? Recently doubled its class size. Doubled its class size. And no trouble filling those seats, eh? I mean the class seats, not the dental chairs. And our Vice Dean, Dr. Ben Johnson, who spent a lot of time putting this event together. And everybody knows Amanda Muth, Special Assistant for Government Affairs. Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins. What can one not say, right? In her first year, she led the most productive legislative session in state history. And we're talking about New York here, right? She's been widely recognized as a trailblazer in local and state government and champion for progressive action. In 2012, beginning actually in first meeting we had right in the lobby of one of our buildings, she became the first woman and first African-American woman to lead a New York State legislative conference. In 2019, she shattered the glass ceiling when her peers elected her as temporary president and majority leader of the state senate. I was in the gallery that day. That was really cool with Tracy Lloyd. That's right. Majority Leader Stewart-Cousins oversaw the passage of historic and transformative legislation on issues including voting reforms, gun safety, women's rights and health care, immigration, dreamers, the LGBTQ community, the justice system, and sexual harassment in the workplace. Additionally, under her leadership, we passed the most comprehensive and aggressive climate change legislation in the nation and the strongest tenant protection and affordable housing package in state history. Senator Stewart-Cousins, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, was born and raised in New York. Her parents encouraged a life. Give me a break here. She excelled at kindergarten.
The picture of that zebra was really amazing.
Her parents encouraged a life grounded in education and service, something I think so many in this room can relate to as well on a personal level. These values, along with her strong belief in advocating for the underserved and championing the needs of working families, have distinguished her as a public servant and progressive leader. Her current district now includes, again, New York Medical College, and previously she was a county legislator in Westchester and was the first African American to serve as director of community affairs for the city of Yonkers, New York. She's been honored with hundreds of recognitions and awards due to her extensive legislative work and community service, among them Trailblazer of Democracy by Eleanor's Legacy, the Dolores Huerta Award. Most importantly, Senator Stewart-Cousins is our wonderful friend, our representative for many years throughout the governing agencies. And we're just so thrilled to have you back here and back. With all due respect to Senator Harckham, we're delighted to have you back as our senator. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amler. You know, we've known each other for years, and I almost was surprised that you would read these things because of our friendship. When I first got elected, I think you were among the very first, I guess, lobbyists, sort of, that I met with. And we were talking about New York Medical College and the needs, and I've been so fascinated by the growth and the vision of New York Medical College, certainly with the partnership under Touro University, what has happened here. So the evolution of this college and us being here today, seeing even a stronger emphasis on the only disaster medical facility in our region is just a normal, I guess, transition for this college. So I thank you for being always there. Before I was the leader, I did have the medical college, and we were able to do great things, but it's mostly because you all can do great things. And then when I lost you and handed it over, I know everybody's like, how do we keep losing each other? It's called redistricting. Just so we take away that mystery, it was redistricting, but I couldn't have handed it over to a better colleague in Senator Harckham. My privilege, frankly, of being the leader is being able to put all the right people in all the right places. And when not only did we hand off, but you've been able to step up to become the chair of Environment and Conservation, which is, as we can see, extremely important. So it is just a pleasure to know that my colleagues are so effective, and no, we don't leave even when redistricting happens. And of course, Senator Mayer, she's our chair of education. So what happens here is, again, you know, just part of her bailiwick, and there's not a better advocate for education in the state of New York than Senator Shelley Mayer. So my good friend MaryJane Shimsky, who I've known from the county legislature and stepped up and has become a great colleague in the Assembly. And so, you know, you all are well served by people who get it on every level, and push for us to continue to be in the forefront. And of course, Dr. Kadish, when you talked about all of the various challenges, I got to see Dr. Markinson and his simulation, I guess, at St. John's Hospital. It was one of the scarier things. I mean, my kids were born there. I mean, it's always a place, it's a hospital. You know, I've been to emergency rooms, but I never had to, like, step over bodies and all of a sudden the cafeteria had been transformed to this triage center where good things were happening in the wake of something that you know, looked very, very bad. And to know that there is a competent partner in terms of dealing with those types of things. And again, I think this center started in 2005, so it was in the wake of 9/11, and I guess people were thinking about 9/11, but that's why I say about the evolution, because then there was this, and then there's the environment, and then there's the pandemic, and we hadn't even talked about, sadly, the mass shootings. That too is an issue, and the ingredients, the causes may be different, but the results of trauma and massive catastrophic incidents and so on and so forth, have to be met. And so we're so happy to be able to continue to support this organization, this institution. And I was just at the dentist over, yes, I know. So I do want to give a plug for, again, a very good outcome to unexpected need for a root canal. But I will give the dental school a plug. But again, thank you so much for being, the premier institution for disaster medicine. And I'm looking forward to being able to, really see, because this is the groundbreaking, right? So we'll look forward to the actual institution being done. Thank you so much, Dr. Ram.
Thank you. And our newly elected Assembly member, MaryJane Shimsky, is here, and perhaps you'd say a couple of words for us. Thank you, MaryJane.
Thank you, Dr. Amler. Of course, this is not the only Dr. Amler who I'm very familiar with in my time as an elected official. Dr. Shirlita Amler was a great help to me at the County Board of Legislators and has done great work for Westchester County as well. But what you have done for Westchester Medical College has been so transformative. And we, all over Westchester County, really have a lot to be grateful for all of the great things that have happened under your tenure. This is in my district, Westchester Medical College and the School for Disaster Medicine. As someone who goes to a lot of openings of roads, bridges, wastewater treatment plants, and so on, I spend a great deal of my time gritting my teeth while an elected official. None of the ones who are here are guilty of this, but go up to a microphone and say, infrastructure isn't sexy. I think that, maybe except for dentistry, the one area that is higher on the isn't sexy rubric for people who don't really think about this stuff is disaster preparedness. And we know that the universe of hazards is rising, the intensity of many of the hazards is rising, and we are in desperate need of something like the School for Disaster Preparedness. We are so happy as members of the New York State Legislature to do all we can to make sure that this particular school in New York Medical College gets all of the resources it needs to succeed. I know that my predecessor was supportive, and I will be more than happy to be every bit as supportive and work with my colleagues from nearby in the state Senate. You really do have a great murderer's row, because you always have a senator. They might be a good senator. You also have the head of the body. You also have the chair of the Education Committee. So I plan to work with all of them to do whatever we can to make sure you get the resources you need to do great work, and then just as importantly, have the resources and the power to get your message out to medical schools and governments throughout the country, because everybody needs to know what it is you're doing. So congratulations on yet another step forward, and we look forward to helping you with many steps more.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Assemblymember Shimsky. Our Center for Disaster Medicine was founded by Dr. David Markinson, sitting here, many years ago. When he came to us, he was already an internationally recognized expert in disaster response, disaster preparedness at many levels. I knew Dr. Markinson as one of my best grantees around the country in that field when I worked in that capacity for the federal government. He also serves as Deputy Editor-in-Chief for the journal Disaster Medicine and Public Health Preparedness, which is the premier medical journal indexed in the field of disaster medicine. He, as I said, has been expert in all aspects of disaster medicine, public health preparedness, and operational medicine, with unique expertise, which I particularly appreciated back then and today, in the area of pediatric problems, special needs populations, elderly, and other underserved groups who are often the very last to get served during disasters. It's easy to draw up a plan for a community and say, next year we'll figure out how to include children in this plan. The problem is almost every community includes children and others who are not able to get out on their own, people who won't leave their pets behind, and other things that are just part of the reality of our human fabric in this country and other countries. Recently has been senior advisor and former chair of the American Red Cross Advisory Council, also chair of the Evidence-Based Group for Health for the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. I could go on, but he's going to tell us a little bit about the center, what we're about to do, and most importantly, what we're about to do this morning is we're going to get up from our chairs, put on hard hats, we're going to go down the hall and smash open a wall with a sledgehammer because our intellectual brains here in the university have decided you can't really do a groundbreaking when you're already indoors. So instead, we're going to do a wall smashing, and if we do it right, we'll all be able to walk through the big opening, and you'll see what we're doing inside. Dr. Markinson.
All right, so a couple of words. Again, thank you to the leadership who's here today from New York Medical College, Dr. Kadish, Dr. Amler, our dean from the School of Dentistry. Of course, our New York State delegation. As you all know, and you've heard, the need for a center is not really questionable these days. One of the things we always realize is we've been in the past very good about thinking what we missed in the past, and we've had some weaknesses in predicting what we need in the future. The goal of the Center for Disaster Medicine is to use all the resources of New York Medical College and the broader Touro University to help understand what could happen next. Whether it's research into basic science, the way people are educated, the legal aspects, the ethical aspects, how we best train, how we environmentally protect. The goal is to think about what we do in the future. This expansion, as you see here, will really add tremendous capability. The one thing I can tell you without fail is the requests for the work we do, the education, the way we prepare people, far exceeds the resources we've had. And this will slowly get us, not to fully where we need to be, as you can imagine, but much further along. We have the area we're in now. We'll be breaking through the wall, as you heard, and expanding into this whole area and the area over here. This will allow us to add additional simulated areas. We train EMS and police to work together. You heard, unfortunately, about the mass shootings we have to think about. And we recognize the gap that if you can't get that medical care into that environment when the event is still unfolding, there's a tremendous loss of life. And thus, we spend a lot of time training police, EMS, and fire how to work while controlling the event to mitigate and minimize loss of life. We also are going to have simulated school environments. There are many emergencies in schools that people have not well prepared for. Everything from routine disasters, which we know are due to climate change, to unfortunately the problems we're seeing from opioids, mental health emergencies that need to be treated as a medical problem, how to de-escalate them and how to handle them, and common emergencies. All these things while always recognizing all members of our society and making sure our tools, our tactics, and approaches is what we are able to do here. We wouldn't be able to do this without the support of the wonderful university, the resources we have, and all the support we've had. From our majority leader who has supported me and us since you were in the county. I think you were some of our first support and you saw the importance when we first opened. Senator Harckham, without question, always, Assemblywoman, our other senator, the delegation has always been there. And I really want to get to the actual event today. And as I am sure you all know, I'm being coached and we're being asked, and I want to recognize everyone for all the support you've given us. So just a little housekeeping. We have two things we're going to do to sort of celebrate and recognize the work. We'll be taking a picture with the whole group in here and then recognizing the donations and all the support we've had from our New York State delegation. And then as you heard, we're going to be walking outside and we'll be able to, instead of, there's obviously no ground to put a shovel in, but we will be breaking through the wall into the new area we'll be in. So if I could ask all the members of our delegation, our school leadership to come join me up here. We'll have our photographer script us, and we'll get the picture in here first.